A 15-year-old David was just an ordinary schoolboy. He liked a girl named Millie, who was passionate about traveling. David gave her a snow globe as a gift, but the local bully, Mark, snatched it from her and threw it into the river. The snow globe landed on the ice, and David went after it. Unfortunately, the ice cracked under his feet, and the boy fell through. Swept away by the freezing current, David should have drowned, but instead, he teleported to a library. That was the moment he first discovered his superpower. David returned home to his strict father, who immediately started another argument. In the heat of the moment, the boy once again teleported to that same library. After thinking things over, he returned home, packed his belongings, and decided to move to another city. Poor Millie wept bitterly, believing her friend had died. But later that night, she saw the same snow globe near her house and realized David was still alive. The protagonist starts a new life in New York. He rents the cheapest room in a local hotel and spends every day training to master his superpower. His teleportation attempts don't always go smoothly, but he's determined to improve. One day, David notices a bank building and decides to rob it. He walks into the restroom and teleports straight into the bank's vault. The youngster grabs an entire bag of cash, then another, and another. His bed is literally buried under piles of banknotes. When the theft is discovered, the bank staff call the police, the FBI, and security services. Somehow, the thief managed to get into the vault without even opening the armored door. How could that be possible? David, meanwhile, is busy enjoying his sudden wealth. For 8 whole years, he has lived a life of luxury in his lavish New York apartment. And whenever boredom strikes, he simply teleports to some new and exciting destination. One evening, David appears in a London bar and starts flirting with an attractive blonde. One of the visitors watches him with curiosity. After a couple of cocktails, David and the blonde leave the bar and spend the night together. The next morning, the protagonist feels like going surfing, but the sea is completely calm, without a single wave. No problem. David simply teleports to Fiji, rides some of the biggest waves, and then relaxes on top of the Sphinx, right in the heart of the Egyptian pyramids. We see a gray-haired black man torturing a young guy, calling him an abomination. The victim is tortured with electric shocks and a sharp dagger. It seems this youngster is also a jumper, and he is brutally punished for it. David knows nothing about this, and calmly returns home, where he is confronted by the same man. His name is Roland, and he is the leader of the Paladins, a religious organization that sees jumpers as servants of the devil and is determined to wipe them out. Roland uses special electroshock equipment to capture David. The powerful jolts prevent him from teleporting. Roland draws his weapon, but with great effort, David manages to teleport back to his childhood home, taking a couple of bags of cash with him. David visits the house where Millie used to live and meets her mother. The woman tells the youngster that her daughter now works at a local bar. David heads there right away. Spotting Millie behind the bar, he gets so nervous that he's about to leave, but then he runs into his old bully, Mark. At that moment, Millie notices him. Mark, drunk and aggressive, starts harassing the girl. David steps in to defend his friend, and the two guys get into a fierce fight. Their fists fly so wildly that, at one point, David accidentally teleports them both into a bank vault. Or maybe he did it on purpose. Who knows? Either way, David teleports back, leaving Mark trapped in the vault. The protagonist has a pleasant chat with Millie, lying that he works as a financier. She's surprised, since her friend never had a head for math. David invites Millie to fly with him to Rome, knowing it's been her dream since childhood. Naturally, she agrees. Meanwhile, Roland visits Mark in prison, posing as a security officer. Through questioning, he learns that it was David who teleported this guy into the bank. In the meantime, David and Millie fly to Rome. They book a room in a luxurious hotel, and the girl quickly realizes that an ordinary financier couldn't possibly make this much money. Still, David keeps his secret to himself. The couple sets out to explore the city and eventually arrives at the Colosseum. Unfortunately, it's already closed. When the guards turn their backs, David teleports inside and unlocks the gates, secretly letting Millie in. They become the Colosseum's only visitors, wandering freely through its ancient corridors. Thanks to David, they even slip into areas normally closed to the public. While stepping away to teleport and open yet another door, David unexpectedly runs into the same man we saw earlier in the bar. It turns out he's a jumper, too. His name is Griffin, and he doesn't consider David an enemy. Griffin warns the protagonist that he's in serious danger. Moments later, the paladins, led by Roland, appear in the Colosseum. David tries to teleport away, but gets immediately captured. Griffin, however, is far more agile. He dodges his enemies with ease, moving almost at the speed of light, and manages to rescue not only himself, but David as well. It turns out the paladins hunt jumpers, while Griffin hunts paladins. When a Colosseum staff member arrives, Griffin and David teleport to a special hideout Griffin uses to evade pursuit. David quickly returns to rescue Millie, leading her out of the Colosseum. As soon as they reach the exit, he's arrested and taken to a police station. Millie tries to free her boyfriend, but all her efforts are futile. Then, someone highly influential arrives. It's Mary, David's mother, who abandoned him in childhood. And as it turns out, she's one of the highest-ranking paladins. Mary helps her son escape before the other paladins arrive. David finds Millie, lies that he's been released, puts the girl in a taxi, and sends her to the airport. He hands the girl a plane ticket and shows her his backpack stuffed with cash. David tells his girlfriend they need to part ways. Millie boards her flight with tears in her eyes. Roland visits David's childhood home and speaks with his father, William, who admits he hasn't seen his son in 8 years. Roland spots a photo of Mary in the house and gets shocked. It turns out the high-ranking paladin has a jumper son. David teleports to Griffin's hideout, where he learns that the paladins have been hunting jumpers for centuries. The protagonist then returns home, only to find his father collapsed on the floor. David teleports him to a hospital and begs the doctors to save him. Meanwhile, he visits Griffin again and asks his friend to join forces to defeat Roland and protect Millie. Griffin refuses and strands David in the middle of the desert. Nevertheless, the protagonist keeps following him relentlessly, never leaving him alone for a second until Griffin finally loses his temper. However, David has no intention of giving up. The youngsters race through the city at night in a sleek Mercedes. Griffin even manages to teleport the car with impressive precision. He's clearly on another level. After all, Griffin has been teleporting since he was 5. David hurries to the airport and learns that the flight from Rome landed an hour ago. He heads to the bar, but Millie isn't there. Eventually, the protagonist finds her apartment. Luckily, Millie is home, safe and sound. Before long, a car carrying paladins pulls up outside. David admits to Millie that he robs banks, then reveals his secret and teleports her to Griffin's hideout. The paladins detect a recent portal in Millie's apartment, and using special equipment, they trace it and teleport straight into the hideout. Griffin spots David and Millie, and he's far from happy, knowing the paladins will come here any second. Sure enough, they arrive, and chaos erupts as paladins clash with the jumpers. Roland brandishes his dagger again, but once more, Griffin saves David. Stealing a paladin's quad bike, he attempts to escape, while Millie runs back into the fray to rescue David. Griffin then reappears, teleporting a massive bus right into the middle of the battle. Roland survives, so Griffin tries to set him on fire. As the two battle fiercely, Millie frees David and begs him to take her somewhere safe. Unfortunately, Griffin and Roland return before he can do it. The paladin seizes Millie and takes her away. David is determined to rescue his girlfriend, but Griffin has other plans. He's made a real bomb, intending to wipe out all the paladins along with Millie. David is strongly against this plan, so he steals the detonator and teleports away, with Griffin in hot pursuit. They jump across the globe, never stopping their fight or their tug-of-war over the detonator. At one point, the chase lands them in a war-torn field in Chechnya. There, David lures Griffin into a tangle of high-voltage wires, disrupting his ability to teleport. Leaving his friend behind, David jumps to Millie's apartment. Unfortunately, it appears to be a trap. The paladins capture the youngster and chain him to the wall. David can't teleport himself, but he can jump along with Millie's entire apartment. Grabbing his beloved, he makes the most extraordinary teleportation of his life. Water floods the apartment, and all the characters begin to drown. Summoning his last strength, David teleports with Millie to the very same library he first jumped into 8 years ago. Unfortunately, Roland shows up there as well. David grabs Roland and jumps with him to the Grand Canyon. He spares the man's life on the condition that he stop hunting him, and then returns to find his mother. It turns out Mary has been protecting him all these years, hiding his existence from her colleagues. When he teleported for the first time, she left the family to keep him safe. David says goodbye to his mother and goes back to Millie. The weather outside is freezing, so Millie asks her boyfriend to take them somewhere warm. For David, that's the easiest thing in the world.